Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this month's episode of the Advice Media webinar and learning series. We're so grateful to have you here with us as we share another slice of advice with you today. Again, welcome to all, and hope everyone's having a healthy and safe holiday season and enjoying time with family and friends, and not going too crazy. My wife's ready to pull her hair out, and as we're trying to finalize the last little bit here for this weekend. So hope everyone's keeping the stress levels down and everyone's having a good time. Just a few things today. Again, my name's Chad Erickson. I'm one of the owners here at Advice Media, and I'm our Vice President over Sales and Business Development. And just kind of setting up and letting everyone know kind of our format for today in case we've got some first timers joining us. We have our speaker today will be Michael Antozzi, and I'll introduce Michael here momentarily and in our topic. But we welcome participation when we want your comments. So Michael's got a great presentation today. I've gone through a lot of this with him and seen what he has, and I love it. And anyway, he's got about, I would say 35 to 40 minutes of presentation, which time we'll open it up to questions and answers. But if you've got any questions at any time, send those over using the control panel here, which you can see on the right side of your screen. And they go to webinar control panel. If you'll see that little questions area, go ahead and send those over anytime you have a question, and I will field those and moderate those for Michael, and he'll be able to answer those at the end of his presentation. So again, please feel free to participate with us at any time. And Roman, hello, good to see you as well. I'm getting comments already. Let me go ahead and go. One other thing is save this date on your calendar. Next month on January 31st will be our next webinar, and that will be at 2 p.m. Eastern time. We have a group from a company called Atlas KPI. I won't tell too much about them, but what they're doing from a business intelligence perspective for the medical field and for doctors, the ability to track all of your information and statistics in your office to know performance measurements is critical. And they're going to talk about how to do that and the technology they bring and how to really make sure that you're operating at top level. So that'll be next month. So go ahead and save that date on January 31st. It'll be a Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. But let me go ahead and introduce Michael. And our topic today is using Instagram to expand your influence. Michael Antozzi is a senior website and digital marketing consultant at Advice Media. Mr. Antozzi has been consulting with practices of all sizes and composition since 2010. It's crazy to think, Mike, you've been with us for over 7 years, going to 8 years now. But he's
been that long? Wow.
It's been that long. Done a great job. He's strategically advised practices on their digital marketing solutions to really help practices be more profitable. Mike has been recognized as an authority in the space of healthcare digital marketing. Mr. Antozzi enjoys speaking at various conferences like the California Academy of Cosmetic Surgery, Hawaiian Eye, the Aesthetic Academy, Florida Dental, and you may have met him at the Aesthetic Show or Vegas Cosmetic Surgery. Part of what Michael enjoys most about his position is absolutely helping their clients, and I can tell you that that's true. I've watched him, and he is passionate about that. He helps all of his clients navigate really the full and sometimes rough terrain of digital marketing and being able to implement intelligent-driven marketing solutions that really helps our clients increase their ROI and just really increase their revenues. Having gotten married last year, Michael resides in Los Angeles with his wife, Chelsea, and their two fur babies, Dutch and Penny. Michael, we love having you as part of our team. I'm excited to hear your message today, and this is such an important message in such a growing area on social media. And a lot of doctors are, and practices are like, how do we do this better? How do we do this? And so without further ado, time's yours.
Awesome. Chad, thank you so much for the warm introduction. And hi, everybody. I appreciate your time here today. I really look forward to talking to you about really using Instagram in your practice. First, I just got to say I'm incredibly excited to have the opportunity to give this lecture here today because I just love empowering people. I'm a firm believer in any type of knowledge that I can use to disseminate, to help people grow either professionally or personally. I'm always about, paying it forward. So I definitely believe in the power of what we're going to be talking about here today, and I'm really, really excited to share it here with you. I've felt that this lecture was really necessary because Instagram is just becoming so much more of a prominent social media vehicle. And practices really need to be empowered with their own knowledge on how they can grow their Instagram accounts and profiles, because frankly, this is just becoming the new normal way of how patients are starting to connect with your practice. And above all else, because Instagram is such a hyper-personalized and hyper-focused social media platform, you really have to know how to do it well on your own. So that's what this lecture is going to help to cover here today. Just kind of an interesting tidbit. This past September, Instagram passed the 800 million user marker. And as this continues to grow, it's important to know how you can utilize Instagram as a tool to connect with your patient base. So within this lecture today, we're going to cover a few different key points and topics. And as Chad had mentioned as well, too, we're going to leave some time for some question and answer at the end. But the first part of this lecture is we're just going to go over, I'm going to uncover a little bit of the history and the facts behind Instagram, because in order to know how to use this as a tool, you have to know how at least it started as a marketing tool. Secondly, I'm going to actually teach you how you can curate your own awesome Instagram profile and your own content to feature on your profile, and kind of show you what some of the differences between what a great profile looks like versus not. And we're also going to uncover some ways in how we can grow your profile organically, so that way you as a practice can become an influencer in your own field and specialization. So here we go. In case you guys don't know, this is the Instagram logo here. So just a little bit of interesting tidbit in history. Instagram was started and created back in 2010 by two guys from Stanford. It seems like every good online tool is coming out of Stanford these days, but it was built by a guy named Kevin Systrom as well as Mike Krieger. And in just 2 years, in April of 2012, Instagram was purchased from Facebook for a total sum of $1 billion. I don't even know any type of industry where you can get that type of growth in terms of ROI. So the 1 billion number is very important to focus. Obviously, not only just because it's a huge amount, but that short amount of time frame in which that growth was really built. So a little bit of history on that. Back in 2006, you guys might know a very common tool that you and I use today, which is a tool called YouTube, which was purchased by Google. So YouTube has become such a prominent tool, especially in the SEO space, because as time goes by, what we have learned and what we have seen as marketers, even here at Advice Media, is that people respond to visual stimulus. And if you think about it, this kind of goes into even why we talk about why you need to have a great website. If you're going to have the best website, you have to have the best photos. And why is that? It's because humans are engineered to respond much more to visual stimulus as opposed to having to read some content on a page. So Google recognized that back in 2006 when they had purchased YouTube, and that's why it became a part of that whole tool product suite. Flash forward now to 2012, Facebook recognized that same opportunity for their overall platform. And the reason why Instagram is so great is because it is a visual platform, and that's how we express and tell our stories. And because Facebook has such a prominent audience built into it, that's why this is now becoming such a rapidly growing tool in the social media space. So in order to kind of understand that here, I found this little timeline just in terms of the growth of Instagram as active monthly users. And as you can see, when it started back here in 2010, actually it was pretty quick to grow here. It had about 1 million users within its first year. But then as the years had gone by, and especially once that acquisition of Instagram got taken over by Facebook, you can really see how that growth really started to come into play. This chart, as I had mentioned, it actually doesn't reflect this the current year's figures right now. As I said, as of September, it's now up to 800 million users. And so just doing some growth projections here, since 2005, which is only 2.5, 3 years ago, the Instagram user base has grown by 75%. And this is important as marketers to know and to understand, because this is where the eyeballs are. And as doctors and as practices, you want to be able to make sure that your practice is in the eye line of those patients and being able to stay in spaces where those users are every single day. Now, businesses are obviously realizing this as well, too, in terms of the power of Instagram. Now, this is a chart here, as you can see. It basically compares two social platforms between Twitter as well as Instagram. Twitter is the line that is here in red, and Instagram is the line that's marked here in black. And as you can see, even advertising dollars within Instagram have grown tremendously. Whereas Twitter, since 2013, it's pretty much stayed at a flat line. Not a lot more money has been spent on Twitter. And there's a lot of folks that say that Twitter is, as each year passes by, it's really becoming less of a prominent platform in terms of where marketers want to spend their money. Instagram is a whole different avenue, though. And the reason why that is because it's very easy to to project your contact information right there on an Instagram page. It's very easy for people to take that next step or that next call to action if they say find your profile and they want to get in touch with your practice or with your business. It also provides very powerful analytic data. So just like Google Analytics, where you can go into your website and see all that data in terms of how your growth is as your website has accrued over the months and over the years. Instagram really offers you a lot of powerful analytic data in terms of demographics, engagement rates, things like that you can use to your advantage to stay at the forefront of your marketing. Obviously, it's a visual platform, as we said. It gives you the ability to create ads. And again, just this past year for 2017, Instagram's total ad revenue is projected to be at $4 billion. And so that's a substantial amount of money that's just being spent through this platform. So let's define this. What makes Instagram so great? Why are so many people actually flocking to this social platform? There's a few reasons. First of all, it's the mobile functionality. Now, when I talk to practices about building out a great website, one of the first things that I'll mention is that in addition to just a very powerful design, a key component towards having a great website is you have to have a mobile responsive website, because more visits are happening to your website today on mobile than they actually are on desktop computers. When I first started back in this space in 2010, it was really kind of the other way around. It was really the desktop experience first and the mobile experience second. That's no longer the case. And so because Instagram is primarily a mobile exclusive platform, this is why it's so great as a tool, because it's so accessible. Obviously, we've talked about the visual nature here. People connect and respond much more to pictures and to videos as they do to reading a text or a little tidbit of information through a Twitter or a tweet. So that's why it gives you much better engagement. And because of the visual nature of it as well, it gives people a higher sense of energy. It's more interesting to look at. The accounts that you can follow, they literally tell you stories. And so because of that, the visual nature, it gives you a higher energy social media platform. So because of all of these things, the whole goal of creating a great Instagram profile is to be able to increase your visibility. So you want to be able to maximize on the amount of likes to your profile and the amount of people that actually follow your profile, and to create as much engagement through those videos or through those photos as much as possible. Come on now, here we go. Okay, cool. So skip that a little bit here, but now we're going to kind of shift into part two of this discussion, which is the keys of having a great profile on Instagram and how to become an influencer here through this profile. So there's basically a few key points that I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to list these here one by one, and then what we're going to do is just kind of do more of a deep dive into some of these points. But the first part is if you're going to have a great Instagram profile, is you have to know your brand. And we'll get into some of these details in a second here. The second part is you have to create and post quality content here on your Instagram profile if you want to have a great profile and become a great influencer. The third is using your story well. You have to know what a story is, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later on in this lecture. There's a difference between posting stuff versus actually procuring content onto your story feed. So we'll kind of go into those differences in a second here. And the final piece is being able to have posting consistency. So let's start here for number one, which is knowing your brand. So knowing your brand, what does this actually mean? Who are you as a practice? What makes you as a practice, or you as a doctor or a specialist, a person that we as patients really want to go to? That's one key component that I always ask all of my clients when we're talking about their digital marketing is really, why do we want to come to see you? What makes you different than the guy that's down the street? in terms of how we can pose that question onto Instagram is that you have to post about the things that you are passionate about and make that really the theme of your account. So a good Instagram account has to have consistency in terms of what you're actually posting, and you have to really make that your whole entire brand. I underline this part because it's so key. Know who you are and make that the center part of your overall profile. That's not a really easy question to answer, and that's a rhetorical question that I encourage each of you that are listening here on this call today to really think about is, what makes you special? Really, what makes you unique? And what are some of the unique selling points that we can really express in a visual format here through this profile? I took this screenshot here of an account that I actually personally follow. This is a gal who I met several years ago. She was a bartender actually at the time, and now she has this huge Instagram following. Her name is Mina Young Lee, and she is just a world traveler. And I just find her photos so visually interesting, and it's so cool to see all the places that she's making time to go to and spend and see. But you can see a consistency here in her profile where all these pictures are theme or are travel related in some capacity. So interesting tidbits here, 80% of your posts should be about educating or enlightening or engaging your audience. And this all kind of filters back to just being who you are and letting that speak very loudly through your Instagram account. The photos that you also feature as well too on your profile tend to get 38% better engagement than photos that do not have any type of people that are actually pictured on the profile. We'll get into engagement in a little bit later, but on Instagram, what that means is how many times is once you post out a photo, how many times is it being liked, commented on, or shared within that overall framework. And that's really the whole key, is that when you post photos, you want to attain high engagement. So I'm showing you guys here just a few examples. I'm going to go through a few examples of what some really, I think personally, some really killer Instagram accounts look like here. This is actually one of my clients, Dr. Jennifer Walden. I did put a marker here just in terms of the amount of followers here that she has to her Instagram profile, but it's very, very strong. Now, she's a plastic surgeon that's based out of Austin, Texas. And as you take a look just kind of at her, what we call the Instagram wall, her Instagram wall, which is the curation of a bunch of these photos that are being published here under her profile, you can see here, you know, there's a few different themes to her photos. At the top right here, you can see that she's in a blue dress and she's obviously speaking here to a patient. So she doesn't have that white coat on. She looks kind of fun and engaging. The latter pictures as you're going down obviously have her in the scrub. So now we're kind of getting a behind the scenes look in terms of what she's doing here actually on the operating table. Some of the photos feature her with her pug or her, I think that's a pug actually. I could be wrong. I don't know my dog breeds too well.
That's Peggy, you know, the pug, which they added to the family yesterday actually.
Oh, really?
Peggy okay. The pug. Yep, brand new. Mm-hmm. I follow on Instagram. We're friends. Yeah, Peggy.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what we can see here is that Dr. Walden is really giving you a behind-the-scenes look at her life and what her life is all about, both professionally as well as personally. That's really what the theme of her brand is, and that's why people are attracted to her. And because of that, that's how she's been able to build up such a substantial amount of followers to her page. Keep in mind, that's 275,000 followers. That is a huge market opportunity for Dr. Walden. That's a huge audience and a huge reach that she is reaching every single time she creates a post here. This is really what the value is in terms of what this tool can bring to you, is immediate exposure to your audience. This is another one of our clients here, Dr. Monica Banakdar. And what I noticed here with her profile as well too is it just very nice and clean and elegant. There's an actual elegance to her wall that you see here. There's an order to it, and that speaks well to her sense of aesthetic sensibilities as a cosmetic doctor. One thing that you can also see here as well too is there's this pink hue consistency with almost every single picture that you see here. And it just creates a very, very interesting visual field as people are looking at this, and that's what helps to build up a very high engagement. Now, I didn't show her likes here because actually I wanted to focus more on the photos that are here. She has about 20,000 likes to her page. Still not as much as Dr. Walden, but still a very substantial number for her in terms of the amount of followers that are following Dr. Banakdar. Now, these are two screenshots of some folks that I personally follow through my own Instagram page here. The one at the far left here, Jessica Aitken, give you guys a little bit of a story on this one. This is actually a girl who I went to high school with. I grew up in a little farm country of Reading, Pennsylvania, and I happened to just stay in touch with Jessica throughout the years. And as I became friends with her on Instagram, I noticed that she was shooting these super cool lifestyle and documentary style photos of her kids. And as I was looking at all these pictures, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So a great little story on Jess that I like to share with you guys is, as Chad had mentioned, I had gotten married last year. And while I live in Los Angeles, I have a huge family that's in Reading, Pennsylvania, and I couldn't fly them all out there to go to the wedding in California. So what my wife and I decided to do is we had an engagement party for my family back here in Pennsylvania. And as part of that, we wanted to hire a photographer for the event for that evening. So I saw Jess's profile on Instagram, and I thought that her pictures were just so super cool and interesting. So I reached out to her. I said, hey, listen, I don't know if you remember me, but this is Mike Antitosi from high school. This is what's happening. My wife and I are having this event. Would you mind coming to be our engagement party photographer for the evening? Jess was actually floored that I asked her that question, because she actually only kind of does these photos for her kids. And at that time, she had told me, she goes, you know what, I don't really do big events like this, but because I know you from high school, I'm sure I'd be happy to do it. So Jess came, she took the photos of our event, and they were absolutely amazing. Frankly, I thought that they were a little bit better even than our own actual wedding photos that we had in California. And I shared them on my Instagram profile, and everyone was loving them. Because of that, it actually gave Jess the confidence to start her own business. And now she is a regularly booked wedding photographer due to her documentary and lifestyle way that she shoots weddings. And she actually reached out to me over the holiday here, and she was like, listen, I would love to get together if you're in town, because I can't thank you enough for asking me to be your event photographer for that evening, because it's created this whole new business opportunity. And if you just think about it, her just posting one or two photos about how cool I thought her shots looked really converted such a huge new opportunity for her as a person. And so again, this is what the power of visuals really can help to play for a business. This is another one that I really love following here to the right here, Nusret. I'm not sure if anyone on the call here today is from Miami, but this is a really, really, really great steakhouse in the Miami area. Just to kind of show you what the power of a brand looks like here. This is a whole Instagram profile. The guy's name here on Instagram is Salt Bay, but he has 10 million followers on Instagram through the only activity of showing him preparing beef at his steakhouse. And it's a very kind of niche market, if you will. You wouldn't think that a chef could really create such an Instagram following just by showing how he creates and treats the meat before he actually serves it. But I'm showing you a few different photos here from his overall profile, and you can notice some consistency. First of all, he never shows his eyes. He's always wearing these sunglasses that are here. Here's him with this. It looks like a rack of lamb, maybe. I'm not exactly sure. This is kind of his signature move, where he sprinkles the salt over the meat, the beef as he's preparing it. And this is also a new market opportunity that his Instagram account had actually helped him to procure this past year. I'm not sure if anyone on the line here is a big fan of the Netflix show Narcos, but he was actually featured in a scene from this past season. It was a scene where all of the cartel guys were around. They went to this restaurant and they were all eating beef, and you can see as this is playing right here. But this is an opportunity that was created for this chef to appear on this hit TV show just for this one scene, because of how he is marketing himself through Instagram. And this is where the influencer comes into play. And I tell the story because Netflix realized that this guy has over 10 million followers on his Instagram profile. Netflix is a digital distribution channel. And so what are they trying to do? What is Netflix's goal? Is they want to drive eyeballs to watch their episodes. So why not feature him in a restaurant scene where he's sprinkling salt on the beef? It's because they're trying to capture his 10 million followers on Instagram and encourage them to watch that particular episode, as well as to engage into the whole series. But this is why we say this is what influencer marketing is all about. Now, the other thing I'll also say as well, too, is that this guy, Salt Bae, he is actually from Turkey. He has kind of an ethnic look to him, obviously. That's why he was featured here on the show. But he very well could have just taken the stance of saying, you know what, I went to culinary school. I just want to be a chef and own my own steakhouse and call it a day, and that's it. He could have made that choice, and he probably would have had a successful business, but it would have been okay up until a certain point. He thought beyond the idea of just being a chef or a master of procuring really great steaks. He wanted to express and show that narrative to the whole world. And as difficult as much of extra work as that might have been for him, you can see what it's giving him in terms of his overall exposure, in terms of visibility. And I encourage you to think about your practice in that way as well, too. I talk to a lot of folks and a lot of doctors, and a lot of doctors that I talk to might say, well, I've gone to this medical school, I've gone to Harvard, or I've gone to Yale, and I've gone to the best of the best of the best. And then they want to have a successful practice just based upon those laurels alone. And while that can definitely give you some great success, it's not really going to truly give you that ultimate power unless you're starting to think of yourself as a publisher in addition to the great work that you're doing as doctors and as practitioners. So I encourage you to really think about how you can truly build out your brand, because it can be very powerful if it's done in the right way. All right, so enough about branding here. I think we kind of hit that pretty good. The next part here in terms of having a great killer Instagram profile is being able to create good quality content on Instagram. Now, in terms of bullet point number one here, the good photo quality produces high engagement. So as I said earlier, what is engagement? It's likes, comments, shares. That's what you want to do when you post out on Instagram, is you want to create good engagement. Now, the only way to create good engagement is if you have a good high quality photo. And if the photo looks very grainy, if it was not shot well, you're not going to get good engagement. And Instagram's algorithm is set up in such a way, very similar to Facebook, that if the content that you're putting out there does not get good engagement, it's going to retire. It's going to fall dead, and you will never know about it. You could be spinning your wheels, posting out content after content piece after content piece after content piece, but if those content pieces are not getting the engagement, then they're going to fall dead on the feeds of your supposed followers. And so it's really, really important that you think from the publisher's perspective of making sure you're always putting out good, high quality content. My suggestion here would be give yourself a social barometer. Whatever you're about to post, before you press that send button. If you look at that picture, ask yourself, judge this photo on a scale from 1 to 10. And if it's at least not an 8 or above, then you should not be posting it. It's not worth your time to post it. As much as consistency is important with Instagram, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, quality is just as important as well. So give yourself that sense of social barometer. What I would absolutely suggest, and now iPhones have really come a long way, and mobile phones have come a long way, and Samsung as well too, just in terms of being very, very powerful with the amount of picture content that they can help to procure for you. I would also suggest, if you really want to build this up well, is to invest into a good DSLR camera with Wi-Fi capability that you can transfer to your phone. Some of these cameras sell on Amazon for as low as $400, and it comes with a complete package with a tripod, different sets of lenses. I believe the Canon EOS is that one that's priced at that price point. It's a great intro camera if you're really looking to build this out more for your practices. Make sure that you're taking these photos on a very high quality instrument. Now, once you transfer that photo into your phone, that's really where a lot of that editing takes place. I've listed here a few apps that you can download for your phone. Apps like Photoshop Mix, which is an Adobe product. Facetune 2 is a great app that can help to manipulate your hair and makeup. Lightroom CC is a great one for lighting. I believe that's also an Adobe product as well. These are some good, helpful co-apps that you can really download for your phone to be able to really take your Instagram quality, your photo quality up onto the next level. Now, the other thing I'll hear about as well too is that, gosh, it feels like a lot, right? Like, oh my gosh, I have to build all this good, high quality content, and I have to have different content that's out there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. What I absolutely encourage you to do is to think about how you can procure the best content and set up a photography session. Shoot all that content that you want to produce, say, for the next month, for the next 2 months, for the next quarter, all in one setting, as opposed to having to shoot multiple sequences, because it's going to save yourself a heck of a lot of time. So certainly get into that habit of not necessarily having to think that, oh my gosh, I have to produce new content every other day. Have it done in one block of time, and it's going to save yourself so much energy. Now, what I'm showing you here is a before and after example of what I would say, good high volume photography looks like versus one that was kind of just shot with a generic iPhone with poor lighting. Both of these are actually friends of mine. I know in the event that my other friend happens to see this, I kind of blocked out their names so that way they don't see this here. But again, we can kind of see the engagement factor here as well too. My friend Doug that's here on the left, he shot this photo, which just looks very cool. It's just a guy crossing the street in New York City, but his reflection is going off of the street puddle. And he happened to capture that through his DSLR camera, and he posted that onto his Instagram profile. You can see what the engagement looks like for that photo versus the one that you see over here to the right. With the engagement, it had over 114 likes just because the photo looked very cool. It looked very interesting. You can see it got some comments down here. Living in Lo-Fi says that this series is so good. So this photo is obviously part of a procured series. Must have been a trip that Doug was going into in New York City. But you can see the following, because people are actually noticing that there were other photos on his profile that matched the same quality. And that's what's helping to create good engagement. The one over here to the right obviously looks very, very grainy. It's cool to say, hey, this is me out with my friends and things like that. But you want to make sure that photo quality is really up to date, because if it's not, the only photo that this is really going to matter to is yourself. It's not really going to gain traction with your audience. And again, keep in mind, that's the whole goal of this, is to be able to create good engagement with the people that follow you. I'm going to kind of segue here, and before I get into the consistency aspect, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the use of Instagram Story, because it actually falls very much in alignment with photo quality. For those of you who don't know, Instagram Story is kind of a new segment to Instagram, and it kind of took a playbook right out of Snapchat, where basically what Story enables users to do is to show the everyday of their life, right? So, for example, this photo that you see right here would have been much better served going on this user's Instagram story as opposed to actually posting it onto their profile. So as we go into bullet point number 2 here, stories should be used to show the everyday as to what's actually happening here in your office. This is where you can post the less quality content on your page in a video or picture format without having all these images clog your wall feed. Again, kind of going back here, this is what a wall feed looks like. So you want to think about, this is the place where you post those good quality images here. And your Instagram story is the place where you can post those less quality images and just kind of show people, hey, this is what's happening here in my life. But Instagram stories still have some really great value to them. They have over 250 million daily active users. And so people are showing off their life every single day. Now, the great thing about Instagram stories, and the reason why you can post less quality content through this specific platform, is because the stories are retired after 24 hours. And so the whole intention of this is just to be able to highlight and to show brevity. These are kind of some cool things that you can do here with Instagram stories. The screenshot here that you see to your left is a feature which is called Boomerang. It's a guy just taking his sunglasses on and off. And so as soon as you record that in Boomerang style, it just automatically plays like this. You can also do some augmented reality and take a photo of yourself, but then slap a pair of sunglasses on you and write a little caption underneath there. We always talk about the lightness of within social media, and we want to talk about how you can really kind of show off your personality and why people want to come to see you. This is a great way of just showing off your personality. It's something that's very generic, but it's kind of fun when you're looking at it in this way. And so use stories really as that means, again, of just producing less of that quality content and use it in a fun way to try to connect with more of your users. Now, the final part really to having a great killer Instagram profile is consistency. And I really cannot stress this enough. It seems like a lot of work, but you have to put the work in order to get the results in terms of being that influencer and building up that audience like you want to. So if you can, post daily if possible. And this is kind of going back to saying, shoot all of your content in one setting. Don't feel like you have to procure all that content every single day. But if you shoot in one sitting, if you develop, say, 30 images, you can have that as being your editorial calendar for Instagram for that next 30 days. And there again is your daily expression of content. So if you can post daily if possible, but certainly not less than every 2 to 4 days. The more that you post, the more consistency that you as a user are showing Instagram's algorithm, and you're gaining favorability in that way. So the more that you're posting, essentially what that means is Instagram starts to define you more as an influencer as opposed to, say, posting once a week or once a month or every other month. So posting consistency is absolutely key. Generally speaking, posts produce the best engagement on a Monday, Wednesday, or a Thursday right after work hours, right before the work hours begin at 8 a.m. or right after the work hours at 5 p.m. So I'm sure that most of the people that are here on this call here today, obviously, if you're within a healthcare practice, you have a local scope of audience that you're trying to reach out to. So think about where your time zone is. So for example, if you're an East Coast practice, if you're a West Coast practice, post at 8 o'clock in the morning because it's already 11 o'clock on the East Coast. Don't worry about the time fluctuations. Just try to stay current to where your current time zone is. I'm not really sure to the method or the methodology as to why Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday are actually the best days, but statistically speaking, from the analytic data that Instagram aggregates, it says that the most users happen to be active during these times as well as these days. Now, when you post, you just don't want to post. The other side of this, just in terms of consistency, is engaging with like accounts. You want to search for like accounts which are under hashtags, and we'll get into hashtags in this next segment, that you would like to increase your visibility under. So for example, if you are a plastic surgeon and you really want to be known more for rhinoplasty, search rhinoplasty under Instagram and see all the people that are following under rhinoplasty and try to engage with that audience, like their photos, comment on their photos, start to build a rapport in that way. You have to engage with those accounts on those photos and work to really build your community, because the more that you like and comment on other like accounts, the more that they're going to like and comment on yours back. This is very much a social platform that's based upon community in that way. Scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. So this is a screenshot here of Dr. Miami. I'm sure that everyone here knows who Dr. Miami is, but for those of you who might not, this is a doctor that has built a huge practice through social media, specifically through Snapchat, and his Instagram profile is pretty kick butt as well too. What I've done here is I've shown you two different screenshots just in terms to highlight Dr. Miami's consistency. The screenshot that you see over here to the left was actually taken yesterday at 2:01 p.m. and I circled a photo that's there on his feed at the time. You can see he has about 717,000 followers to his page. And this morning, I also took another snapshot of his profile at 10:41 a.m. And I circled that same photo that's there, but you can see less than a 24-hour period, Dr. Miami had produced 2 new photos to procure through his Instagram profile. So this is just what's going to show you his level of consistency in terms of how committed he is to building his practice through a social space. I know Chad had met Dr. Miami. Chad, do you want to talk a little bit about him just in terms of what his story was for you, or do you want to save that to maybe later on in the lecture?
No, now's great. Thanks, Mike. One of the things that's interesting on this as well, Michael, is I noticed that he added 1,000 followers overnight.
Right.
That's another huge thing. So I heard Dr. Michael Salzhauer, Dr. Miami, speak at the Global Aesthetics Conference at the beginning of November, and and I was very curious to kind of just hear what he had to say and kind of tell his story. And he's so likable, just a very, very genuine person, was sharing some great ideas. But going along with what you've talked about, he knows who he is. He knows that the demographic of patient he's going for is a breast body patient primarily. He limits patients by their age. If they're approaching, I believe you said it was 60, basically his cutoff might be 50. I think it's actually 40. If they're 49 and a half, he won't treat them.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So again, he knows his demographic, and not that he's trying to ostracize, he just knows where he's at. People need to have a certain, BMI as well. If they come in and their BMI is too high, he won't see them. And he's very clear about that. And again, that's become his thing now. He's got a lot of shock factor and things he does, and it's worked well for him, and people have really obviously embraced it, and he's built a practice upon it where many are now emulating what he's doing. So again, I think he's true to who he is, he's consistent with it, and he continued to grow it and done a really good job.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Chad. Yeah, it's really amazing. And you're right that just even building 1,000 followers in less than a 24-hour period is huge exposure for him. This is really the potential in terms of how you can use this as a very powerful marketing tool to connect with and really broaden your reach, so to speak. So that's great. So we're going to shift now to kind of part 2 of this discussion, which is how you can really grow your profile organically. So how do we make your profile to become really the next real Dr. Miami? Now there's a few rules in place, and I'll kind of go over some of these as well too throughout this. And we'll kind of I'm going to bullet point these right now, and we'll kind of go into some deeper detail in the next few slides here. But how to grow organically is you have to use hashtags to build your profile's visibility under the photos that you post. You also have to know how to post hashtags correctly. There's actually a method to posting your hashtags correctly on Instagram. And you also have to engage with and build your community. So let's kind of get into this first part here. What the heck is a hashtag anyway? It's always just been a pound sign on my phone. I'll be honest with you, when Twitter first came out and everyone was hashtagging things, I had no idea what the heck was going on. And I was like, hashtags, what are these things? So I know that everyone knows what a hashtag is, but for the few that maybe don't know what a hashtag is, let me just kind of go into some deep dive here. A hashtag is basically a marker that you tag on your photo to increase the organic visibility for your photo under that certain subject or that category. So for example, if you are a cosmetic dentist, right, and you just put out a before and after case on a veneers patient that you just serviced, you might want to tag that photo with being veneers, hashtag # veneers or # bright smile. If you're an aesthetic practice like a medical spa and you really want to be promoting more of Kybella, you want to hashtag maybe Kybella or Kybella before and after aesthetics, things like that. All of these tags disseminate your photo underneath all of these channels. And so again, that's really the whole goal, is to be able to increase your exposure as much as possible. So the goal of using a hashtag on photos is so that way you can really reach more people who search underneath that category, regardless if they're in your local area or not. Again, that whole goal, the intention of this is to be able to acquire new followers to your profile. Now, research has actually shown as well that in addition to searching or hashtagging under channels which are more known for everyday people, developing a branded hashtag for your own practice to build a brand following is always encouraged. You might see, if anyone follows the Advice Media Instagram page, we'll post sometimes and we'll hashtag We Are Advice Media. I used an example here, Beauty by Dr. Smith. Think about what a cool tagline could be for your own individual practice. And every single photo that you post, make sure you're hashtagging it underneath your own branded profile. Now, the key point here as well, too, is that you really want to kind of feel into which hashtags are the best. Now, while Instagram allows you to include up to 30 hashtags, the key point of Instagram is you want to also look cool, and you don't want to have to look like you're overdoing it. So generally speaking, the agreed upon consensus for hashtags is about 11 hashtags that you want to be using as being kind of the max in terms of what you're tagging underneath your picture. So how to post a hashtag here. Now, listen in on this part of the discussion, everybody, because it's a little complicated. I'm actually going to walk you through the process of once you've taken that photo, what do we do next? So once you've taken a photo and you're ready to upload it to Instagram, don't do that yet. That's not what you want to do first. What you first have to do is actually curate all of your hashtags as well as your commentary before you actually post that photo. So step one, you want to use some type of note-taking app on your smartphone. Notes on the iPhone is one that I use, or Evernote is a great app as well too that you can download. But create a file through an app, and you can title it Instagram post, whatever it gives you most meaning, and save that curated file for Instagram posting. Now, the script of the post should follow the format of having 5 dots lined up vertically, these 5 right here, with up to 30 hashtags underneath the 5th dot, but do keep in mind 11 hashtags is what's been found to be the most optimum number. So you want to have something on your notes or whatever app that you or service that you might use that looks exactly like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots, and underneath that 5th dot, that's when you start to hashtag the verticals that you want your profile, your picture to get seen in. So I used an example here of Kybella. If you're a medical spa practice and you were doing a lot of Kybella injections, these would be some good hashtags for you to hashtag Kybella. Medical spa, aesthetics, Kybella, chin fat removal, beautiful you. The second one in here at the second row, aesthetics by your practice name. So aesthetics by Dr. Smith. You know, think about that. Always make sure you include one branded hashtag that's in there. So after we've done that, now step 2 is we want to copy that full script that you've created with your hashtags as well as your dots. So just highlight everything on your iPhone and click on copy. Step 3 then is you want to open up your Instagram app. Now is the time that you select your photo to post. So go back and find that photo. Again, all of the information that you've copied is still saved on your phone. Find that photo that you want to produce, procure that, and publish it on Instagram. And then immediately after, click on the comment box underneath the photo, and then you paste all of that content you've just copied within that comment. And you also want to make sure that you also geotag your photo as well. And then you save it, and then you're good to go. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why do we have to do it this way? That was so complicated. Why is Instagram set up in this way? As I said, Instagram is about looking cool, and you don't want to make it seem as if you're trying to oversell yourself. And so if people can see your hashtags right underneath your photo, it gives them a diluted sense of saying, oh, this person is just trying to be self-promotional. So the reason why we have the 5 dots and you hashtag underneath there and you put it into the comments is because the hashtags now become hidden to the visual user that follows your account. Putting the hashtags under the comments hides them, but it still gets your photo seen into the verticals that you want to be seen within. Now, a very, very important key note is that after you've published your photo on Instagram, you only have 5 minutes to hashtag that photo. After that 5 minutes, Instagram will not allow you to, while you can, Instagram will not recognize your photo within each of those hashtag verticals. Even if you go back like a month later and decide that, hey, I want to hashtag this before and after case that I put on my Instagram profile, it's never going to get seen in terms of its visibility. So you want to make sure that timing is very key. You know, if you're trying to post an Instagram photo and the pilot is telling you to shut down your computer screen, now's not the time to do that. You can wait until you land and make sure you have time to be able to make sure you're tagging your photos correctly. Also, too, you want to post like the pros. Always include an emoji when you're posting. We say this when you're, regardless even on Instagram, we say this for Facebook as well, too. We give a great social media lecture in terms of how to do Facebook well as well. The consistency is using emojis because they tend to get much better engagement than if you're not using them. As I said as well, too, you want to make sure you're also geotagging your photo because that tends to produce 79% better engagement because people also search location search as well. And so if you're able to kind of capture that segment in addition to your hashtags, you'll be all set. Now this little graphic here, I've actually put this, these are actually graphics of the top, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are the top 10 emojis that you can actually use, or the most used emojis on Instagram. So take a look at these. These are all available through your iPhone if you have the most latest version of iOS. You know, these are updated all the time. And so it's very easy to produce really good emojis next to the stuff that you're posting. Now, finally, kind of wrapping all this up here, a few things to keep in mind here. Rome was not built in a day, nor was Dr. Miami's Instagram profile built up in a day. It does take time. As with marketing, with all things, marketing and Instagram building is an event. It's not a process. I'm sorry, it's a process. It's not an event. Meaning it's something that you're always going to be continually engaged with. It's not something you're just going to do one time, post one time, and then say, see it later. You will not build a good following to your profile if you're treating it like an event. So know yourself, be your brand, be absolutely authentic with the photos that you're putting out there, and make that the focus of your post. Be insane about how much you want to be authentic with your posts. Wasn't a good choice of words, but you want to make sure that you're being very, very obsessed with always just having your sense of authenticity and your brand in all of your pictures that you're putting out there. And remember, patience equals patience. The more you're patient with this, the more time you give it to build, that visibility will happen in time with more patients finding you and you becoming that true influencer in your specialization. A very key point here is do not try to purchase followers, as this can get your Instagram account suspended or removed. Very, very, very key point. There are tons of marketers that are out there that say, oh, we'll purchase followers for you. Instagram is very knowledgeable enough to know what followers are true to your profile versus those which are basically bots that like your page. And those can get your accounts flagged. And if you're flagged, that dilutes your ability to really become a true influencer. So do not under any circumstances try to purchase followers to your page. The growth has to happen organically through good content procurement as well as engaging with your audience. As I said, engage with your audience here. If you receive comments on your photo, that's awesome. Make sure you respond back, even if it's a quick note of thanks. That's a great way to acknowledge the people that like the content that you're putting out there. People like being acknowledged. And so you want to make sure to make that a consistent part of your behavior. If you post out content and people are taking the time to comment on it, acknowledge them back, say thank you. Maybe follow them back or look at a few of the pictures underneath their profile and decide to like some of those photos as well. I think this kind of goes without saying, but I did want to put this in here. Do not discuss any type of patient-sensitive data, as that will be a HIPAA violation on Instagram. So do not engage in that type of open dialogue through that. Now, if you're ready to get started here, and if you don't have a good Instagram account for your practice, you'll first need a Facebook business page first. And so I've actually created a short link that's here. I'll kind of give some time and space if you do want to copy this down, but this will also be recorded as well too, so you can always go back and look at this. But this is a short link that I've created that will take you to creating an Instagram account via Facebook. So use this, and if you don't have one, this is a great way for you guys to get started. That's it, everybody. Again, I hope you guys got a lot of great information through this here today. And my whole goal is just being able to put power into your hands and make you smarter marketers, smarter business people. And this is a great market opportunity in terms of how you can really make your practice grow. This is my contact information here. My email as well as cell phone is listed here. So if you have any questions or would like to follow up on anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can.
Michael, thank you very much. That was an awesome presentation, and there's some new things I learned as well. So I really appreciate your time and thought that went into that today. And we've actually got a lot of questions, and so I'm excited to have you answer some of these for us. One of the first questions that came up is, you know, there's been some sensitivity. There was a movement through ASPS recently where they're evaluating the appropriateness of some posts. So when it comes to the shock and awe, right, and there are some that have done that, what is what's the limit with the shock factor, and where should they be appropriate? What's appropriate? What's not anymore?
Yeah, Chad, that's a great question. And I think that a lot of the times we find that more within especially a lot of the before and after cases that people can put out there. Instagram does have a very strict policy relative to nudity, but it's almost a bit of a double-edged sword here, because even as we can see with Dr. Miami here, he did post a very risque before and after picture on the right-hand side here, as you can see. But some of the mentionable parts are covered up with emojis. So long as you are hiding the more sensitive parts of a picture, so to speak, but still being able to get that overall messaging across, you want to be creative with it, obviously. If you would like some information or just to kind of see some visuals as to how Dr. Miami does this, I would actually encourage everyone on the call to visit his Instagram profile and see how he covers it up, because people can still visually see a good quality of the before and after without seeing some of the unmentionables, if you will. And it's a good way for him to kind of not only just show the results of his work, but it also kind of is a bit fun to look at in a way, just in terms of how he's being creative with covering up some things. So I would definitely say err on the side of being more conservative, obviously, but always certainly you never want to be expressing any type of nudity, direct nudity on Instagram, because that will get your account flagged.
Thank you. Yeah, when it comes to appropriateness, boy, it's all over the map as well. I think you need to have a certain level of decorum still. Maybe that's a personal opinion. Some other things work for others. That's fine, but I would be careful. I've seen people where on a large fat remove or whatever, they're almost flaunting the amount of fat that they're holding up in the OR and showing that. And anyway, I would just urge you to show a little decorum, be cautious. You can still have fun. You can still educate and teach. There's a line, and just be careful, with that in what you do. But I don't know that's been defined clear. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would also say too, if that's a big concern, I would also say before you post it, give it a once over by somebody else. Get maybe an outsider's perspective, maybe people that work there in your office, and say, hey, listen, what do you think about this? Does this feel too risque or does it not? I mean, it doesn't hurt to always get some consensus before you actually go down that line. So I would absolutely say if that's a concern, and before you do it, show it to some other people first.
Great suggestion. Another question that came in is what's one of the, if you were to tell somebody, how do you increase followers within their office? What's one of the best ways that you found or that you'd like to suggest?
Oh, absolutely. So if it's in office, you definitely want to encourage your staff members to help to build your community for you. So you'd be amazed at how many offices that I go into, and as I'm sitting there waiting to see the doctor or the office manager, I never see any type of postage or signage that says, hey, like us on Facebook or like us on Instagram. So it's got to be a continual narrative. Keep in mind, as patients are waiting to get seen, what are they doing? They're in your office, they're sitting down in the chair. No longer are they really looking at the TV anymore. They're most likely on their phones. They're on their smartphones. It's a great opportunity for your receptionist or somebody that works with the front office to say, hey, listen, did you know that we're on Instagram? It's a great way to stay connected to our practice. Do you have an Instagram account? Yeah, sure I do. Follow us on here. We're at Dr. Michael Antozzi or whatever your handle is. That way, it's a great way of continually building good engagement from your local audience. I would also say as well, too, newsletter, email marketing, just a general announcement can be a great way of saying, hey, listen, we're active on Instagram. If you have a good database of email accounts from patients that you've served, it's a great one-time message to say, hey, listen, we're active on this space, like us on Instagram, and stay connected with all the exciting things that are going on here in our office.
Yeah, another great suggestion. We have a couple questions related to geotagging that I want to throw out to you. One is how do you create a geotag on a photo? And the second question related to geotagging is it better to geotag your office location, specifically right down to your office, or an area like Brooklyn, New York, for example? What's best? And again, how do you do it, and then what's best?
Sure, that's a great question. So a lot of your devices these days, and unfortunately, this is just the way that a lot of mobile operating systems are starting to work, is that they do, in order for apps to work well, they have to be geo-enabled, because it gives that marketer a sense of, hey, where's this activity actually coming from? So believe it or not, a lot of your photos that you're taking on your iPhone, if you do have, I'm sorry, I say iPhone as a general smartphone term, but if you have location enabled on your smartphone, most likely every time you take a photo, that location is going to be tagged onto that photo. So as you load it up into Instagram, it should already be there. Now, if it's not there, very luckily, Instagram is also connected to a lot of location services down to the specific IP address, and you can actually just search for that location on Instagram and be able to tag that on your photo. Now, in terms of what's appropriate, if you're like in the city or if you're actually at your office location, that's a great question. You have to think about how specific is that content. What I would definitely suggest is that if you're actually taking a photo from inside the walls of your office, or if you're in your OR, then definitely you want to make sure that that geotag is specific to your location as much as possible. Maybe your photo though is you, like Dr. Walden. You know, let me just kind of go back here to her page. So let me just open this up here. You know, she posted this photo of her flying to some location. Obviously, this would not be a specific office location. You would want to tag the photo in terms of where the location that you actually are at. Again, kind of going back to one of the key points here, authenticity is really the key. You don't want to false tag your photo. You know, if you're taking a photo of you going over the Golden Gate Bridge, you would not want to tag Williamsburg, Brooklyn, just because you're trying to get visibility there. So, you know, you want to kind of just think about it. I think kind of what Chad had said, just using some decorum, just feel you have to kind of feel what's right. But I would definitely say, you know, just try to think about what is the end goal and be able to tag that photo appropriately.
Perfect. Michael, again, thank you very, very much. We're out of time today. Appreciate everyone for your thoughtful questions, and again, for that great information. This webinar has been recorded, and we will have it on our Advice Media website by tomorrow at the end of the day. It'll also be on our YouTube channel, so you'll be able to watch it then. So if any of you missed it, great. You'll also get a reminder of this, so you'll be able to catch it and with the auto reminder that gets sent to you. Again, we thank all of you. We wish you a happy and safe holidays this time of year. Happy New Year. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Michael, again, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.